времена идут, а все не меняется. Почему? Так потому что я, как обычно, стою возле озера. Всем привет, вы на канале Игро-Зона, и с вами снова я, профессор, и это The Witness. Мы с вами продолжаем играть. Продолжаем заканчивать, если быть точнее, эту замечательную игру. И как я уже сказал, мы снова у озера. Да, я тут сидел, глядел, и все просто отлично. Я бы сказал, все замечательно. И нужно с этим заканчивать. Потому что нам осталось совсем чуть-чуть. И это прекрасно. Это реально просто прекрасно. Что ж, давайте начинать. Как обычно, поскольку у нас сейчас такие заключительные серии, начнем мы, конечно же, с поиска кассет. Ибо почему нет? Так, и первая кассета находится в бамбуковом лесу. Не ждали? Она тут есть. Итак, сейчас мы находимся возле центра, возле вот этого завитушного дерева, который похож на косичку. Кстати, да, он реально похож на косичку. И вот здесь у нас проход, да. Вот здесь мы идем и доходим к лазеру. Но если пройти чуть-чуть сюда, то можно найти кассету. Вот так вот оно и работает.
If we were not able or did not desire to look in any new direction, if we did not have a doubt or recognize ignorance, we would not get any new ideas. There would be nothing worth checking because we would know what is true. So what we call scientific knowledge today is a body of statements of varying degrees of certainty. Some of them are most unsure, some of them are nearly sure, but none is absolutely certain. Scientists are used to this. We know that it is consistent to be able to live and not know. Some people say, how can you live without knowing? I do not know what they mean. I always live without knowing. That is easy. How you get to know is what I want to know. This freedom to doubt is an important matter in the sciences, and I believe in other fields. It was born of a struggle. It was a struggle to be permitted to doubt, to be unsure. And I do not want us to forget the importance of the struggle, and by default, to let the thing fall away. I feel a responsibility as a scientist who knows the great value of a satisfactory philosophy of ignorance, and the progress made possible by such a philosophy. Progress which is the fruit of freedom of thought. I feel a responsibility to proclaim the value of this freedom and to teach that doubt is not to be feared, but that it is to be welcomed as the possibility of a new potential for human beings. If you know that you are not sure, you have a chance to improve the situation. I want to demand this freedom for future generations. Richard Feynman, 1963.
Как-то так. Вот и первая кассета. Неплохое начало, по-моему. Я бы даже сказал, прекрасное начало. Что ж, а следующая кассета находится в храме. Итак, я тут пока веселился, собрал вот такую штучку, которую мы с вами уже собирали. Но теперь, внимание, вопрос. Как вы думаете, где находится кассета? Я дам вам небольшую подсказку. Вот так. Что, вы нашли ее? А? Вот она. Хе-хе. Черт возьми, как ты тут оказалась?
There is nothing in existence but veils hung down. Acts of perception attach themselves only to veils, which leave traces in the owner of the eye that perceives them. Bin Arabi 1231.
Стоп, все? Серьезно? Блин, капец мамонта заскамили, я-то думал. Ладно. А что сейчас делать, кому сейчас легко? Итак, сейчас мы с вами находимся в цветочном бункере. Или цветочном заводе, называйте как хотите. В общем-то, как вы помните, мы здесь решали загадку, да? Я уверен, вы помните. Так вот, на этом этаже, где зеленый цвет. Опа-на! А что это я тут вижу? Послушаем, послушаем.
As scientists, we realize that color is merely a question of the wavelengths of ethereal vibrations. But that does not seem to have dispelled the feeling that eyes which reflect light near wavelength 4800 are a subject for rhapsody, whilst those which reflect wavelength 5300 are left unsung. We have not yet reached the practice of the Laputans who, if they would, for example, praise the beauty of a woman or any other animal, they describe it by rhombs, circles, parallelograms, ellipses, and other geometrical terms. The materialist, who is convinced that all phenomena arise from electrons and quanta and the like, controlled by mathematical formulae, must presumably hold the belief that his wife is a rather elaborate differential equation. But he is probably tactful enough not to obtrude this opinion in domestic life. If this kind of scientific dissection is felt to be inadequate and irrelevant in ordinary personal relationships, it is surely out of place in the most personal relationship of all, that of the human soul to a divine spirit. Arthur Eddington, 1927.
Эх, вид с горы на весь остров Завитнеса, конечно, завораживает. Но еще завораживает то, что... Ну, вы понимаете.
Up there, you go around every hour and a half, time after time after time. You wake up usually in the mornings, and just the way that the track of your orbits go, you wake up over the Mideast, over North Africa. As you eat breakfast, you look out the window as you're going past, and there's the Mediterranean area, and Greece, and Rome, and North Africa, and the Sinai, the whole area. And you realize that in one glance, that what you're seeing is what was the whole history of man for years, the cradle of civilization. And you go around down across North Africa and out over the Indian Ocean, and look up at that great subcontinent of India, pointed down toward you as you go past it. And Ceylon off to the side, Burma, Southeast Asia, out over the Philippines, and up across that monstrous Pacific Ocean. Vast body of water. You've never realized how big that is before. And you finally come up across the coast of California and look for those friendly things. Los Angeles and Phoenix and on across El Paso. And there's Houston. There's home. And you look, and sure enough, there's the Astrodome. And you identify with that, you know? It's an attachment. And down across New Orleans, and then looking down to the south, and there's the whole peninsula of Florida laid out. And all the hundreds of hours you spent flying across that route, down in the atmosphere, all that is friendly again. And you go out across the Atlantic Ocean and back across Africa. And you do it again, and again, and again. And that identity, that you identify with Houston, and then you identify with Los Angeles, and Phoenix, and New Orleans, and everything. And the next thing you recognize in yourself is you're identifying with North Africa. You look forward to that. You anticipate it. And there it is. That whole process begins to shift of what it is you identify with. When you go around it in an hour and a half, you begin to recognize that your identity is with that whole thing. And that makes a change. You look down there, and you can't imagine how many borders and boundaries you crossed again and again and again. And you don't even see them. At that wake-up scene, the Mideast, you know there are hundreds of people killing each other over some imaginary line that you can't see. From where you see it, the thing is a whole, and it's so beautiful. And you wish you could take one from each side in hand and say, look at it from this perspective. Look at that. What's important? And so a little later on, your friend, again those same neighbors, another astronaut, the person next to you goes out to the moon. And now he looks back and sees the Earth not as something big where he can see the beautiful details, but he sees the Earth as a small thing out there. And now that contrast between that bright blue and white Christmas tree ornament and that black sky, that infinite universe, really comes through. The size of it, the significance of it, it becomes both things. It becomes so small and so fragile, and such a precious little spot in that universe that you can block it out with your thumb. And you realize that on that small spot, that little blue and white thing is everything that means anything to you. All of history and music and poetry and art and war and death and birth and love, tears, joy, games, all of it is on that little spot out there that you can cover with your thumb. And you realize that that perspective, that you've changed, that there's something new there. That relationship is no longer what it was. And then you look back on the time when you were outside on that EVA and those few moments that you had the time because the camera malfunctioned, that you had the time to think about what was happening. And you recall staring out there at the spectacle that went before your eyes. Because now, you're no longer inside something with a window looking out at a picture. But now you're out there, and what you've got around your head is a goldfish bowl, and there are no limits here. There are no frames. There are no boundaries. You're really out there, over it, floating, going 25,000 miles per hour, ripping through space, a vacuum, and there's not a sound. There's a silence, the depth of which you've never experienced before. And that silence contrasts so markedly with the scenery and the speed with which you know you're going. That contrast, the mix of those two things, really comes through. And you think about what you're experiencing and why. Do you deserve this? This fantastic experience? Have you earned this in some way? Are you separated out to be touched by God to have some special experience here that other men cannot have? You know the answer to that is no. There's nothing that you've done that deserves that earned that. It's not a special thing for you. You know very well at that moment, and it comes through to you so powerfully that you're the sensing element for man. You look down and see the surface of that globe that you've lived on all this time, and you know all those people down there. They are like you. They are you. And somehow you represent them when you are up there. A sensing element, that point out on the end, and that's a humbling feeling. It's a feeling that says you have a responsibility. It's not for yourself. The eye that doesn't see does not do justice to the body. That's why it's there. That's why you're out there. And somehow you recognize that you're a piece of this total life. You're out on that forefront and you have to bring that back somehow. And that becomes a rather special responsibility. It tells you something about your relationship with this thing we call life. And when you come back, there's a difference in that world now. There's a difference in that relationship between you and that planet, and you and all those other forms of life on that planet, because you've had that kind of experience. It's a difference, and it's so precious. And all through this, I've used the word you because it's not me. It's not Dave Scott. It's not Dick Gordon, Pete Conrad, John Glenn. It's you. It's us. It's everybody's. Russell Schweikart, 1975.
Мудрые слова, очень мудрые слова. И самое главное, долгий, черт возьми. Так, теперь пришло время обелиска. Потому что, с кассетами на сегодня, пожалуй, хватит. Я предлагаю пока что решить вот эту загадку. И, поскольку вот те две, они решались таким образом, то, что мы с вами оплывали замок, соответственно, мы можем сделать вывод, что для этого нам тоже нужно обплыть замок. По-моему, все предельно понятно. Погнали, погнали. Ох. Сейчас повеселимся, как говорится. Потому что решать, находить, точнее, пазлы на лодочке, это всегда прикольно. Ну, конечно, самым прикольным это когда лодочка сама была частью загадки. Вы помните, я знаю, вы помните. Но это единичный случай, не забывайте об этом. Но это было прикольно, это было прикольно. Тут не поспоришь. Увидел. Разворачиваемся. Я увидел то, что хотел. Теперь мне нужна лишь маленькая скорость. Потому что я заметил. На одной из самых маленьких скоростей. Сейчас медленно. Ну, чего не сделаешь ради того, чтобы решить загадку. Хорош, прошел. Отлично. Можем возвращаться. На полной скорости, конечно же. Все. Что ж, мы молодцы. Еще одну сторону закрыли. Хотя это, конечно, была всего лишь одна загадка, но... Ничего. Сейчас еще немного порешаем. Нужно лишь пристыковаться. Эх, это, конечно, не Самара, но тоже неплохо. А пока можем поразглядывать карту. Она все-таки довольно хорошо сделана. Так, все, вот мы и причалили. Да, мы причалили. Благодарю. Все, спасибо. Ух, наконец-то мы на земле. Так, теперь предлагаю решать вот эти загадки. Они довольно интересны. Но перед этим, давайте-ка загадки с фильмами. Помните то, что на одном фильме мы с вами уже собирали вот эту загадку. Так вот, есть еще вот такая дверь, и смотрите-ка, что тут есть. Так, оно находится также в первом фильме. Вот, есть вот такая вот штука. Нужно лишь найти нужный момент. Вот. And the reason why so many people may be thinking about throwing away those crutches is because, thanks to science and technology, and leaves only what is demonstrably true about the world. And the reason why so many people may... only what is demonstrably true about the world. And the reason why so many... Ты чё, чел? Ты чё так быстро это делаешь?
Because it removes the reassuring crutches of opinion, ideology,
Тварь. Тварь!
believes only what is demonstrably true about the world. And the reason why so many people
Капец. Подожди.
so much, and that if they
Все,
ever have
нужно тебя
more
отключить
say in
нахрен.
their lives,
Потому что ты меня бесишь.
and leaves only what is demonstrably true about the world. And the reason why so many people may be opinion, ideology, and leaves only what is demonstrably true about the world.
Да.
And the reason
Оно реально делает со мной кринги или чё?
only what is demonstrably true about the world. And the reason
А в таком случае, да капец ты тварь.
and leaves only what
Да.
is demonstrably true about the world.
Капец ты тварь.
Assuring crutches of opinion, ideology, and leaves only what is demonstrably.
Блин, было.
It removes the reassuring crutches of opinion,
Стоп.
ideology, and leaves only what is
И...
demonstrably true about the world.
Блин, почему так тяжело?
Ideology, and leaves only what is demonstrably true about the world. And because it removes the reassuring
Да, наконец-то.
ideology.
Наконец-то мы сделали это. Фух. Капец, почему это было настолько сложно? Ладно, пожалуй, на этом давайте будем заканчивать. В следующей серии мы, конечно, продолжим, потому что здесь очень много загадок и довольно интересных, связанных с фильмами. Да, поэтому мы будем заканчивать здесь, в кинотеатре. Ух. Да, здесь еще очень много интересных моментов. Но это мы уже будем обозревать в следующих сериях. Но на этом я с вами буду прощаться. Спасибо, что смотрели. Всем удачи, всем пока. Пока-пока-пока.
Up on that stage singing, ooh.